Greetings, everyone. Welcome to another edition of Mic'd Up Sports, the show that goes in depth with the people who build our sports community. If you're wondering why I'm holding a microphone, we had a minor technical glitch, so this is my backup option. But no backup is necessary to describe the accolades of our guest, Lindsey Becher. Lindsey, I know we've been trying to work this out for some time, and it finally worked out now, and I'm glad you were able to join us. But normally with this Mic'd Up Sports series, we go through a person's oral history, what got them into basketball, things like that. And I'm sure there's some fascinating stories behind that. But I want to start with your journey these last couple of years, because you've been all over the place as far as what you want to do moving forward. And I don't mean that as a knock, but you are emblematic of the mental health obstacles that encompass a lot of athletes, whether they express it or not. People like yourself have a lot to navigate in this era of athletics. So thanks for coming on. And if you don't mind, what has your mental health journey been like these last couple of years?
Yeah, it's been a bit of a roller coaster, honestly, but I started out and I really started feeling and experiencing anxiety like right before summer, before freshman year, so going into it. And I think it kind of just was mostly like starting something so new and COVID, and there was just like so much happening, and it was just, I started to kind of feel anxious a lot of the time. And so I played freshman year, and it was a successful year basketball wise, but it was hard. And I remember at the end of it kind of thinking, like, do I want to keep playing? Do I not? But I ultimately decided, like, I owe it to myself to give it another year, because freshman year is hard for everyone, and COVID was hard for everyone. And it was a successful year, and I just wasn't ready to make a decision yet. And so I was like, I'm going to give myself another year and just see how it goes after that. And so then I continued on. Sophomore year came, and I would say it was overall an easier year, just with a lot less obstacles, but the anxiety was still there, and it kind of went more like up and down. Like, I had my highs, but my lows were lower, and my highs were higher a little bit. And so, yeah, I kind of just, at the end of sophomore year, I was in just a really weird spot, and there were other things going on in my life as well, which played a factor, but I just kind of came to the decision after a lot of really hard conversations that it would be best to just take some time away. And I quit. And at the time I was like, I'm not coming back. Like, I just need to focus on myself, whatever. And then I've had like a lot of stuff in my life change in the past couple of months, and I'm like in a much better headspace right now and hoping to stay that way. But as I've been getting like better and a more clear head, I've also like started to miss basketball, and I was like, oh, I miss basketball, and I didn't want to go back into it, and I didn't want to just jump back into it, because there was also like, what if I just go back into it and then I'm like, oh, like I this is not what's for me, and it doesn't help my anxiety and all of this stuff. But I also was like, with being in the new headspace and all the changes in my life, I'm like, I feel like I owe it to myself to just give it a chance and like just see. And I would much rather live with the regret of trying again and then realizing and knowing for sure than the regret of just never playing again and like wondering. And so I'm officially playing basketball again, and I feel really good about it. I played league the other night with my team, and it was like really fun. And I just feel like so much like lighter and happier and just like excited for the future right now. So it's definitely been a roller coaster, to make a long story sort of short.
I'll go with that. Short indeed.
Yeah.
But your path is a fascinating one, because you're coming off a bunch of highs. You attended Mounds View High School. That's where I met you, and you were the all-time leading scorer, still are. You set the all-time scoring record, men or women, at the school. You led the state in blocks for 2 years. You were a double-double machine. You made the all-freshman team in the NSIC, so it wasn't like you were struggling with playing time or being productive. And on the surface, your story might seem crazy to somebody who would look up your history, look up your stat line, and go, well, what does she have to worry about? She's balling, and you were balling, still are. If your numbers and your performance are an indication, well, you did get the single-game blocks record last season, so your skills are without question. But in the midst of those highs, what do you think was eating away at you?
I am not really sure exactly, but I've had some clarity in the past few months that I'm not going to get too specific about, just out of respect for other people, but just coming out of, I think, a few things and just like kind of realizing there were just things going on in my life that weren't fully like healthy for me, and I think those things have been removed from my life, and so now I just feel like I'm in a much better place, and there were just other things going on that were eating away at my mental health that were like leaking into every aspect of my life. Like school was never an issue for me, like academically, and my grades last semester were like the worst they've ever been. I mean, they weren't terrible, but still just like you could tell it was leaking into my academics and my basketball, and yeah, I don't know, but yeah, it was never really the pressure of performing for me, which I'm like very blessed to be able to say, but it was just like other things that made even going to practice or even speaking to my teammates like was just hard. And I was just like in such a shell and just so like drowned in anxiety and like overthinking thoughts. And so, yeah, I don't know, to answer your question, it's kind of vague, but.
I thought you explained it succinctly and swell, all of that, and I didn't sense anything. And I know you and I have had conversations. I'm sure you've had other conversations with teammates, maybe family, others, things like that. How difficult was it for you? And I don't mean that to try to pry like dramatic or false or cheesy things like that, but you and I have had a lot of conversations to get to this point. I'm sure I'm not the only one that has had conversations of this tone. Mm-hmm. What would you say was your lowest point, and what do you think helped you get out of it?
My lowest point? I don't know if I've ever like really talked about this, but just moments of like really paralyzing anxiety, and just like anxiety for me translates in a way that's like doom or like danger. So I'm like, everything's like dark and it's just like, feels like something really bad is gonna happen when like nothing really bad is probably gonna happen. And so just moments of that where it's just like tunnel vision and it's just dark and I'm just like, nothing is good right now. And I don't know, I have had moments in the past where I'm like, do I even want to like be alive right now? And that is nothing ever like super like serious. I mean, that is serious, but not in a way where I have like a plan or I'm like writing letters to my loved ones, but just like thoughts for sure. I've had many times where I've thought like, I don't even know if I want to keep like living my life. And so I feel like, I don't know if I have one specific moment that was my lowest, but just a lot of moments built up in that way. And getting out of it, I mean, I just kind of kept going. I leaned on my friends, and playing basketball was sort of always an out, but just the playing part, like feeling like I was good at something and feeling like I had confidence in something and something that was like good to me. And yeah, just like leaning on the people around me was super helpful for me, and opening up to my coach about it was super helpful, opening up to my teammates about it, because I know mental health there is a conversation around it these days, which is amazing, but like I feel like it should just be so normalized that you can just like pull a teammate aside and talk about it, and it's just like, this is amazing. Like it's so hard to open up about it. And I remember freshman year, at the NSIC tournament, I was struggling again, and my teammate Sydney Wentland, I don't know if you know her. She played at Denver. Yes, and played at Denver, Concordia, and then she's over on the East Coast right now. But she was like a huge part of the Hidden Opponent, which is the mental health organization, and a campus captain for that. And we just had a really quick conversation at the tournament one day, and just kind of talked about like what was going on and all this stuff. And literally just that one conversation opened up so much for me. I was like, wow, I can talk about this, and it's okay to talk about it, and it's okay to like be real with people and tell people what's going on. And then I was like, now I have a friend in this, and she has my back, and she knows what's going on. And so yeah, it's so hard to get out of the ruts and the lows, but I think you just have to keep moving and lean on the people who you have, and the people who support you will support you and be there for you. And I've truly been overwhelmed by the amount of like support I've received, even when announcing I was done playing basketball. Like the amount of support and like uplifting words I received was just so overwhelming and like very surprising to me. And so it's really hard to talk about it, but it's so helpful to just know that you're not alone, and everyone goes through their own stuff. So yeah.
So following the support you received when you announced you were done playing, what was the response when you told everyone, psych?
It was a positive reaction. I mean, my biggest concern was like, what are my teammates gonna think? Because I love them all, but I feel like I just don't wanna like overstep, and I wanna respect them, and I wanna like just come back in the most respectful way possible. So I think that was my biggest fear, kind of, was just like, what are they gonna say? But they've all been so supportive, and my friends have been supportive. My parents are like so excited I'm back, and I think people are just overall excited, and bottom line is people are excited that I'm doing better and excited that I can just get back to doing what I love and what I'm good at. And so yeah, it was kind of scary to be done, but it was also scary to come back kind of in a different way, just because you don't know how people are going to react or what people are going to say like behind your back. But I was like, moral of the story is people who are going to support me are going to support me, and people who don't. And yeah.
And this doesn't necessarily go along with the lowest point, but what do you think has been the hardest part about discussing this? I know, again, you and I have had some conversations, so I have some familiarity with some of the things you went through. Mm-hmm. You went through periods where you said, I don't know what to say, and you certainly have been there where I'm serious though, where you're trying to figure out, what do I say? You're stuck in this conundrum, this fork, and you're not sure which path to take. What has been the hardest part about discussing this and putting yourself out there? It takes some courage to reveal this part about yourself, no matter who you're talking to.
Yeah, I think the hardest part is just, for me, it's figuring out my feelings and like deciphering like what is true and what is what. And like I think the hardest thing for me, especially coming back, was making sure that it was the right decision to come back, because I was like, if I'm coming back, I'm not like stepping back again. Like I'm not gonna go in and out, I'm not gonna go back and forth. Like it was really, really hard for me to decipher like what my feelings were. Like, yes, I miss basketball, but it's also been a part of my life for so long. Like it's natural to miss something. And so I honestly think the hardest part for me is just like recognizing what I'm feeling, and then figuring out like where the truth lies and where, like what I'm actually feeling. And so, because a lot of the time I just get really confused about what I'm thinking, but that's kind of that. And then also just, having a lot of hard conversations with people you care about, and probably fearing you're gonna burn a bridge or two. And like I was just so terrified, like especially talking to my coach back in March was just so hard. And like she's been nothing but amazing to me and understanding through all of this. And I was just like, the last thing I want is conflict or like broken relationships. I just like want everything to stay good. And so probably those two things were the hardest for me. It's just a lot of really hard, uncomfortable conversations.
You touched on this a bit, but when you sense an anxiety attack coming, or when you go through thoughts like you did where you're wondering, should I be here? Do I have a purpose here? What are your coping mechanisms to guide you through it?
That's a great question. I feel like I'm getting there. I'm not amazing at coping with it, but I actually was just talking to someone the other day just about like how much growth I have seen in myself, and just like I'm able now to at least like feel when I'm anxious. Like the other day I was kind of having an anxious day and I hadn't had one in a while, and I was like, oh, I'm feeling anxious today. And I was like, I wonder why. But I was like at least able to be like, oh, I'm anxious and this is that, like pinpoint it. And then kind of just like, I kind of just try to like move through like, why am I feeling this way? Or what's happening today that might be making me feel this way? And then kind of like working through it. So like, for example, I sometimes get anxious about going to my job just because I don't know why. It's just I always have. And so I had like a little 4-hour shift the other day, and I was like anxious about it. And I was like, why am I anxious about this? Like nothing dangerous is gonna happen at work. And so I was like, okay, I'm anxious about work. And then I was like, well, what are we anxious about? Like, there's nothing to be anxious about. So I like really think through it, and I'm like, truly, what is there to be anxious about? Like, is what you're feeling true? And then I just kind of like, I'm working on just pushing myself to go, because I do tend to get avoidant when I'm anxious. So I'm like, psych, I'm not doing that. And so that I think has been the biggest thing for me, is just being able to really sort through my feelings and understand like why I'm feeling things and where there's truth and where there's not. And so that's kind of the biggest thing. And otherwise, again, just like leaning on the people around me has been so helpful. My parents and my sister and my close friends all kind of know what I'm going through and what I sometimes deal with. And so that's another thing, is I'll just like call up a friend or my mom or my dad and just like talk about it. And that always brings a lot of ease to me, because sometimes like verbalizing it and then being like, oh, there's nothing here, like I'm anxious about something, and they kind of help me see like, oh, there's nothing there to be anxious about. So yeah.
How do you think your role in sports has intersected with this? I know you talk about how much you enjoy playing and how basketball is one of your safe zones, if you will, but throughout most of sports history, you might have seen this as you grew up and as you embodied your role in athletics. Oftentimes the attitude has been try to push through it, and a lot of athletes, they're used to that, whether it's coming back from injury or coming back from a bad game. I think everyone gets this sense of invincibility, that they can just power through anything if they put enough work or put enough effort into it. I think you understand where I'm coming from. How do you think that maybe impacted your mental health, positive or negative? Because what you've done in basketball has given you some great opportunities, but I know for some, that cycle, that schedule, that routine of just muscling through anything can sometimes wear away at you.
Yeah. I think that performance-wise with basketball, I don't feel, I mean, obviously it's physically demanding, and it's, you kind of just have to push through that stuff. Like you have to push through a hard practice or a hard lift or a hard conditioning session. And you do kind of just have to push through that stuff. But I mean, when it comes to injuries or like performance anxiety or mental health stuff, like that's stuff that I think taking it slow is best. And I know it's like, it's hard to have to, when you're an athlete, you just want to get back out there no matter what. You're like, I don't care if this hurts my ankle more in the long run, I just want to play now. But I think it's really important just to like truly take care of yourself, even if that means you have to take a step back to take a couple steps forward in the future. And especially for me, I mean, I took a step back and here I am a lot better, and it's really hard, but I think that it's just important to like look out for yourself, because sometimes you're the only one looking out for yourself. And even though it's hard, I think if people have things to say about you taking care of yourself, then that is a reflection of them maybe. And I just think it's really hard, because there is that stigma of just push through, but it has been more of a conversation around just like, take care of yourself, and you don't have to, it's okay to not be okay, and all of that stuff. And so yeah, but for me, I mean, performance-wise, I think I just have super high expectations for myself, and I'm never really satisfied. Like, I could have the best game of my life and be like, oh, well, I missed 2 layups, or could have blocked those 2 shots, but I got called a foul instead, or something like that. And so performance-wise, I think for me, I've just realized, like, you're not gonna have a stellar game every night. You're not gonna have a triple-double with 10 blocks and 15 rebounds and 30 points, like, every night. Like, that's just probably not realistic, which in my head, I'm like, even if I did that, I probably would be like, oh, I missed a free throw, or I let the girl score on me or something. But for me, it's just been like realizing, like, you're a great player, and as long as you're like working hard and truly giving it your all, like, that's all you can say. And some nights aren't your nights. And so, yeah, that's kind of all I have to say for that, I think.
If that's your attitude, Lindsey, do I dare ask what your thoughts were after setting the single-game block record last season when you got 11?
I don't know.
I tease somewhat, but I'm going, I hope you weren't beating yourself up too much after 11 blocks.
No, I was excited, but I mean, like, that aspect of my game was good that night, but also, like, there are other things I could work on, and that just, like, unfortunately is how my brain works, which isn't terrible, but it's also like I have a really hard time just like being proud of myself for the accomplishments that I have, because I feel like I always have those other things going on in my mind. So, yeah.
You mentioned this coming on after you transitioned from Mounds View to Concordia. So I'm wondering, did any issues like this surface at Mounds View? And what was different, what was similar with what you experienced in high school? And being one of the headliners, Mounds View didn't always win their games, but you always put in a solid performance. And even in the games you did lose that I covered, you were always productive. So what do you think maybe was similar, different? When you look back on it, were there any clues during your time at Mounds View that perhaps when you look back signaled this obstacle that you've had to work your way through?
I don't think, I mean, I didn't really experience much anxiety in high school to the level that I do. Like, I had everyday normal anxieties like every high schooler does, but nothing to the point of what I experienced in the past couple of years. But I think high school is just so different than it is in college. The team dynamic was so different, and the schedule is so, it's just like, feels like 2 different worlds. And I loved both. Like, I loved playing at Mounds View. It was fun, and it honestly set me up to be the player I am today, and will continue to be, just having a mentality of, oh, I kind of have to do, well, I don't know, like, I kind of have to do it all, and I have to try to do it all at least. And so I think that's been really helpful. Just like it definitely raised my expectations for myself, but I also know, like, I can do a lot of things, and I can impact the floor on offense and defense and all of these different things. And so, yeah, I'm very thankful for my experience at Mounds View. It was fun. I have nothing bad to say at all, and I have some great lifelong friends from there. And I'm happy to see them. I'm happy to see the program like kind of changing and doing better right now. It just like, I watched them play the other night, and it was just like fun to watch. And so there's like a few girls who left and came back, and so I'm just excited. Like, it feels like all those younger girls are really excited to play, and they seem like they're really loving it. So I'm just excited for that for them, for sure.
So after your first league game, kind of working your way back into it, you will give it at least one more season, and we'll see what happens after that. But we know you're going to give basketball another go, and sometimes it's year to year like that. But what do you think you're wiser and stronger about this time around when you gear up, suit up, run through the practices, go through the drills, all the plays, when you go back out there and balance your basketball with your school and all the other things you like to do? How do you think this past year and going through this roller coaster, as you put it, how will that make you wiser and stronger if anxiety or some other mental health issues creep up again?
Yeah, I think going into this next season, my biggest goal for myself is to just be like unconditionally grateful for everything. And I think that will make a huge difference, because definitely last year in the middle of the season and near the end, I was definitely just going through the motions. And I think it's a really common thing for especially women to we bond over complaining, I feel like. And so a lot of the conversation is we just bond over being worried about a workout, or oh, I don't really want to practice today, and we bond over that, and that's the conversation happening a lot of the time, which there's nothing wrong with, but I'm just I feel like the perspective or the lens could be changed to be we're living some little kids' dreams right now. Some kids dream of being on any team in college, and it's so cool that we're even able to play, and it's so cool that we're able to do this. We're playing the sport we love and going to college, and we have a team we love, and just are playing with our best friends, and that's so cool. And I think that really often gets overshadowed by oh, this practice is going to be hard, or this lift is going to be hard. But also that's what we signed up for, partially. And so it's just my lens going into it is I'm just going to try to be really positive and optimistic about everything, even if I know we have a hard conditioning session coming up. You get through it. We've gotten through it before. We can get through it again. And honestly, leaning on each other through that makes us stronger anyways. Going through a really hard workout, you get through it together, and then you're dang, we did that. And so I think that's one of my goals. And also I'm just going to continue working on through anxiety, and just trying to decipher where there's truth and where there's not truth. And when hopefully at some point I'll be able to remove the feeling of anxiety and be oh, I don't need to feel anxiety, so it'll go away. I'm not really there yet, but I just hope that I'm able to decipher and just kind of keep my head above water more so. So yeah.
I would hope that maybe you bond over another record you might break, bonding over complaining. I find it amusing. I can't say I speak from experience, although it does lead me to wonder, at any point do folks like yourself bond over complaining about my commentary when I'm covering your games?
No.
I'm kidding.
Literally no. We love the commentary.
Wait, what? He's here.
No.
What is he going to say?
We love to hear it. We love the commentary, for sure.
Or maybe you and Andrea bonded when I showed up for the first time at Mounds View and who is this guy?
You had me questioning who I was back then. I remember you were asking me all these questions about myself. I was I don't know, bro.
And here I am years later, still doing it.
That's okay. I feel like I'm a little more. I feel like I know myself a little better now. Hopefully.
Well, and I'll explain. And I've been doing this, whether it's USA Cup recently or every game I cover. I tell coaches and players, the reason I do this, I'm not trying to make you nervous. I'm trying to learn something about you that isn't related to sports, because we get so caught up in results.
Yep.
I've seen parents get agitated when I'm covering games with 12, 13-year-olds, and sometimes parents get agitated, or in high school, and I feel like we lose sight of the reason we did this, or I presume the reason why you took this up in the first place, is because you enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you had goals of college scholarships in mind, but it worked out for you, and it's worked out in big ways. But yeah, that's why I have you questioning about yourself, is because I like to share these things. So at some point, you'll decide to hang it up. I don't know when. Maybe you have a pro career. Maybe you decide you're done after college.
Yep.
But there's still going to be all these things that make Lindsey Becher, who she is.
Yeah.
So that's why I made you question yourself all those
Yeah.
years ago. So
Yeah.
there's a little secret from me.
It's probably good for me, honestly.
At any point, do you feel like the pressure to perform, whether it was yourself or your teammates, did that enter the fray, trying to navigate through the season? Like you said, you like to bond over complaining. So I'm sure after a rough game, you have an inadvertent team bonding moment because you're like, dang, we stunk. What do we got to do to get better or something like that?
Yeah, I feel like a lot of my pressure to perform is just internalized, and like obviously I want to play well for my teammates and be the best teammate I can for them and make them better, but a lot of the pressure I feel is just internalized from the expectations I have for myself, which I talked about earlier. And I think I just like know how good of a player I can be, and so I just always want to play up to that. But I think the teammates thing, I definitely, like I said, play for them too. Like I want to like make the baskets when Jaden passes it to me, or when whoever passes it to me. I want to make the baskets, and like when someone does something good, like you just lift each other up. And I also think that is what brings us our competitive edge, because like we have like real conversations in the locker room about like what we need to do better, and like it's not just all like, I don't know, like sugar coated. Like we're real with each other about like, you need to do this better, or you need to do this better. And it's not, sometimes it's hard to like not take that personally, but it's like we're all just a team and we just want to win, and we want to make each other the best players we can be. And I think on a lot of teams I've been on, it's like if you start getting scrappy with each other, or you start like kind of going at each other, it's like, oh, does she hate me? Or is this personal? Like, does she just not like me? But it's like, it's like, I think holding each other accountable and kind of like being real with each other is like the best way you can be a teammate, in my opinion. Like if I have no issue if someone were to come up to me and be like, Lindsey, you need to like people tell me a lot, like, Lindsey, you need to actually box out. Like if you want to get a rebound, you need to box out. And I'm like, yeah, you're right, because sometimes I don't box out. And like even my coaches, I tell sometimes, I'm like, you can literally say to my face, like, I'm sucking right now. Like it's fine. Like I won't take it personal. So yeah, that's kind of for me, but I feel like I kind of just went off the rails a little of your question, but.
Well, if it helps you get back on the rails, should I ever get the opportunity to call a Concordia game, and if I don't live up to expectations, Lindsey, you can tell me straight up, I suck.
Okay, perfect. And if I play bad that game, you can be like, wow, you really stunk it up tonight. I'll be like, yeah.
I might not go that far. I try to be mindful, again,
little
being
classy.
well, and you want to be respectful, because well, if I were to do something like that, it would go against everything I was saying about why we're supposed to be doing this. Would it be fun to cover another double-double of yours? Absolutely. But if not, I tell my players, past and present, my friendships, my reputation is not based on your stat line. So a bad game is not going to make me want to end my friendship with you. I couldn't tell you how many points you got. I have to look it up. I don't memorize those things because that's not something you think about day in and day out. So on the subject of basketball, I feel we've covered a lot about mental health, and maybe some more topics will come up. But there are some other things I wanted to discuss with you because, again, there's more to this story than just your mental health and your numbers. I guess something else you've had to, I don't want to say deal with, but another thing that can sometimes affect the psyche is, accepting who you are, in the sense that, you were one of the taller figures, I imagine, in high school. I'm guessing in the NSIC it's a little different. You're playing against similar size post players now. But how did you come to terms with your body type, being one of the taller people in your class and shooting up to 6'2"? And the common refrain I hear from folks like, I mean, not specifically you, but from taller women, is finding clothes and shoes that would fit.
Yeah.
What has your experience been like, and how have you grown into that over the years?
Yeah. I truthfully never really struggled with my height, to be honest. I I mean, there were times where I was just like, wow, I feel really tall, and I was taller than like everyone in high school for a while, and like taller than a lot of guys, which wasn't super fun, but I never fully struggled with it because I knew like it was translating somewhere. Like I had basketball and that was something that was bringing me success. And so I was like, well, at least I'm not super tall and just I'm tall for no reason, you know? So I am just like, yeah, I don't know. I never super struggled with that, honestly. But yeah.
That's okay. You know what? That's good to hear because from others, especially maybe folks who are a little older in age, that was something they had to deal with, and it was hard at times.
Sure.
So that's refreshing to hear. And then, how would you say you've grown as an athlete over the years? As we stated earlier, you led the state in blocks for 2 seasons. You had a bunch of double-doubles, and now you're posting similar accolades, similar milestones at Concordia. So the skills you excel in, you do so splendidly. How do you think you've developed as a player, and how do you think your strengths have played into that?
I think my biggest thing is just confidence has been huge for me, and just like mental toughness. Like I remember in high school, it was like 8th grade. I went through, when I was playing for Mounds View, I went through a rut because I like wasn't making my shots and all of that, and that like really, I just remember that being a moment in my life where I was like really struggling with confidence, and to like bounce back and be like, you can do this, you can make those shots, like you just got to get back into it. And so I think over the years the biggest thing has just been like remaining consistent in my mind and just like having the next play mentality. Like it's okay if you have a bad player, if your player scores on you, or if you miss a shot you should make, like just get it next play. And I think that's the biggest thing for me. And then also just I'm working on not being so hard on myself after games where I maybe don't perform as well as I would like to. But I think that's probably going to be a forever thing that I work on. But yeah, I don't know. That's probably the biggest thing for me is just remaining confident and just coming every day with the mentality of like, it's a new day and I know the player that I am and that I can be, and just not letting anything like diminish my confidence or diminish my effort.
I know your story isn't finished yet, as you're going to add another chapter, but what do you think your success, your impact in this sport, how can others, younger players who perhaps might want to take a run at your record at Mounds View if they play for the Mustangs, or follow what you did at Concordia, or just in general? You played for a school that wasn't a perennial, but it still got you an opportunity to continue playing in college. How do you think others can learn from your example?
Yeah, I think honestly, it's just about working hard and making the best of what you have, and the opportunities will come if you just work hard and you put your time in, and you just have to honestly put yourself out there for those opportunities. Because like I remember I was playing for the Minnesota Heat in AAU for like, I think it was the lower team, and we weren't getting a whole lot of like college exposure, college coaches. And I remember I did this little article with Prep Hoops, and then I got an email from Herbie. He coaches at Bethel, North Tartan, and I was like, oh boy, North Tartan sounds really scary. And I was like, oh no, but he was saying like, if she wants to play at the level that she's saying she wants to play at, like she needs to be on my team and play for me, and she'll get the looks that she's wanting. And I was like terrified because North Tartan was like the powerhouse at the time. And I was like, I don't know, I'm just playing for Heat, right? I mean, the Heat is great, but I was just playing for like a really average Heat AAU team. And I did it, and like opportunities will come if you put yourself out there, and you just have to kind of seize the opportunities you get, I feel like. And playing for North Tartan worked out for me, and I don't know what would have happened if I just stayed with Heat, but I know that North Tartan worked out for me, and I got a lot of really cool looks. And yeah, I just think like make the most of every opportunity you get, because you don't know what it could lead to. So.
Who would you say were your role models in the sport of basketball as you made your way through, or even now? And this could be anybody.
Okay, that's a good one. Trying to think. Definitely, okay, this is like a basic answer, but Paige Beckers, for sure, because she is like amazing. And I've just like loved her since like, I know we're the same age, but I've like loved her since like middle school. I'm just like always really looked up to her, and I was like, I want to be as good as her. Like, she's a baller. And so that's like one. And I'm trying to think who else. Probably like Karl Anthony Towns, honestly, because he kind of like changed the game for posts. Like, he made a 5, like he kind of normalized like being a post who can do everything. You can shoot, you can dribble, you can post up, which I think is really cool, and I'm still working on my game in like some of those aspects, but like just normalizing that and kind of giving like the bigger players the opportunity to get out of the paint and do other things is cool. And
What about three-pointers? Is that coming along?
yeah, I'm working on it. Slowly but
Had to
surely. I know. I get that question a lot, but yeah.
And I said it in jest. I don't care. You could
No.
never make a 3, and I'm still glad we have this friendship.
Yes.
But I interrupted you. You mentioned Paige, Karl Anthony Towns, and you were thinking of someone else.
Probably, I mean, I've always looked up to Lindsey Whalen as well, just an icon. Sylvia Fowles too. I kind of have a lot of like, just like people that I think are super amazing. But right now my favorite player is Boban for some reason, because I just feel like I really identify with him, which is kind of random. But fun fact, my siblings for my birthday last year got me a cameo of Boban. Do you know like a cameo?
I know how it works.
Yeah,
I
like
haven't been asked to do one
video
myself.
speaking to me, and it's like the coolest thing ever. I'm like, I love this so much. So Boban's my favorite right now, but.
I have yet to be approached to do a cameo. I think.
Me too. I've never done one.
Yeah, we are such a disappointment, aren't we?
I know.
No, I think if people have to resort to me, then something is really wrong. I think that I think Boban and others you're talking about, they're probably at an 11. I may be 5.5 tops.
Yeah, same.
No, you're more like an 8, 9. I mean, hey, you've got all those records and double. I don't have any of that. I just have 12,000 YouTube subscribers and like an audience that somehow is not sick of my narration yet.
It's a lot of subscribers, though. More than I have.
Well, I've been doing this for, 15? A long time.
Yeah.
A long time.
That's true.
And people start looking for you when you do this kind of work. And I don't think Paige is basic, because, I mean, she grew up here. Everyone had a chance to see her play if you weren't playing in a game yourself. So to have that kind of talent in your backyard, you're not the only player I've talked to who looks up to Paige. Even some of her old Hopkins teammates said, yep, Paige is our favorite player. And I think that's a high honor that fellow athletes, you're the same age, but just to acknowledge what she's done and how she helped put a spotlight on Minnesota. And I'd like to think you're doing the same at Concordia.
Aw, thanks.
Well, and if you don't have an answer to this question, it's fine. But since you've toyed, I guess that's the best way of putting it, you have come to terms, there's an understanding that you know at some point basketball won't be a part of your life, or at least playing competitively. What do you see yourself doing once you're done? And again, if you don't have an answer, that's fine. But getting a glimpse of that, where do you see yourself making an impact when you decide to transition from basketball? Yeah,
that's a great question. I don't really know, but I would love, I'm going to school for marketing, so I would love like a job with marketing and in like the PR realm of just like that type of stuff. I think is really interesting. But yeah, I would love to be making an impact in the basketball community in some way. I mean, I don't know what that will be, if it's coaching or training, but I think I don't know. I hope basketball is a part of my life forever in some way, whether it's when I have kids and they play or something like that. But but otherwise I don't really have a plan. I'm just gonna kind of take it day by day and figure it out.
Well, maybe when you're done, perhaps I can get you to join me in the booth for a game.
Yeah. Oh my
If that's your
goodness.
thing. I don't know if that would ramp up any
scary.
anxiety stuff, but no, I would
might.
walk you through it. No, I've had players who get nervous when I brought them on, and I've said, all it is, you're just having a conversation about the game.
Yeah.
The only difference is you're saying it out loud, but
Yeah.
it's not all that different when you're watching yourself or others and just making remarks about it.
True.
And you mentioned PR. I'm thinking if Andrea keeps her Empower Her business around, I know you did some training with her or tried to set something up, but if marketing is up your alley, and I'm thinking Andrea might call you up on speed dial and say, hey, I've got some ideas here.
Maybe. That would actually be awesome. Yeah, I don't know.
If you don't mind, that's how I met you, was through Andrea. She
Yep.
was one of your biggest advocates when you were at Mounds View, and
Yeah.
spoke highly of you when I had her on my podcast before she left. How influential was she in your development?
Yeah.
Because, again, every time I brought you up, she had nothing but nice things, and she was the one who, I guess, broke the ice between the two of us. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for her, you still might be questioning yourself.
Yes. Yeah, she made a huge impact in my life and basketball career, honestly, because I think she was the first person who was like really real with me about stuff. Like, I don't know. I feel like my whole life, all my coaches, I mean, I have nothing bad to say about any coaches, but it was like never the truth that Andrea brings in like the best way. Like sometimes it hurt to hear a little bit, but like in the best way possible, because I was like, I know that she truly only wants the best for me and wants me to be the best person and player that I can be. And she just like motivated and encouraged me in so many ways that have just helped me so much. Like I feel like I needed someone who was like going to be real with me, but also was like my biggest fan. And she just pushed me so much on the court to become like a dominant player, and just kind of like helped me see like see where I needed to go a little bit, and she just helped me a lot with a lot of things like recruitment. And then she got me into training, which was like super cool. And I haven't been doing that so much recently, but it's just cool to like work with some younger kids and kind of like see how basketball translates in another way besides just playing. And so that was like a super cool opportunity. And yeah, nothing bad to say about her. She's awesome. And I'm so happy she's like thriving. She's living life and thriving.
I wasn't looking for anything bad because honestly, I don't think either of us could come up with
Nothing,
anything.
no.
Nope. Putting up with me, that's a commendation in itself. No, Andrea and I had a great friendship, and
Yeah.
the only regret is that she's so far away now.
I know. It's so sad.
We'll have to maybe pay her a visit.
Yeah.
Well, you and I will just go together and pay her a visit
Take a
in
little trip.
Washington.
Honestly, I'd be
A
down.
basketball, I'm not really a teammate of yours or a coach, but we're just connected through the game.
Yeah.
But one of my old friends said you do meet a lot of people through this thing called basketball.
True.
And you talked about getting the chance to work with younger kids, and perhaps you'll get to do so again if you take up training. I imagine people are understanding about your schedule, so
Yeah.
if you don't have time to train, I think we know why.
Yeah. Yep.
But with everything you've experienced as a player, whether you had those highs, breaking the all-time scoring record at Mounds View, or breaking the all-time blocks record in a single game, who knows what else will come your way, and then going through the lows where you were fighting with yourself, and it was, I think, a period of about a year or so since we tried to make this happen, and
Yeah.
you've been having to navigate all these questions where you don't have a guidebook.
Yeah.
It's not like in basketball you have a diagram, here's what you got to do.
Right.
Mental health is something where you just have to get through it and rely on the support you have.
Yeah.
But with everything you've experienced, what would you tell a younger version of yourself, considering where you are now?
I'm trying to think. That is a great question. I think I would probably just tell her to stop worrying so much. And I would say, Oh, that's really hard. I mean, my whole life I've been like a worrier. And so I think I would honestly just tell her like it's all going to work out. And it's not going to be easy all the time, but it's going to work out. And also just that she's going to grow a lot and like change a lot and like not just like physically grow, but like
not just physically,
just,
because
like,
look what happened.
mentally, emotionally, like you're going to end up where you're supposed to be. And I know I'm not even probably like, I know I still have so much time left in my life and so much that's going to happen. But like at this point, especially in my life, I feel like everything that I'm so like grateful for everything that I've gone through and everything that's happened, because it's like giving me wisdom. It's helped me grow. And I feel like I'm just like stronger mentally than ever. And like, just like the hard stuff you go through is worth it. And if you get through it, you get through it. And it's like for the better almost, I feel like. Yeah.
Well, I agree. I'm hoping there's still a lot more
Yes,
to your
me
story
too.
that's left. But at the same time, I feel it's a worthy question just to get your perspective, because you've been through a lot already and so far persevered. Who knows what the next 5 minutes will bring? Maybe something comes up and you have to navigate another uncharted territory. But so
Yeah.
far, you have found a way to make it work and keep yourself together. That's not something everyone is able to do,
Yeah.
no matter how old you are. And that's why I asked the question. So I think that alone, you have a lot of wisdom just by working your way through all of these things.
Yeah.
I don't know how you did it, but you found a way, and that's the important thing.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. You just got to get through it and you learn as you go. And honestly, it's like, it's so hard to go through things like that, but like looking back and being like, wow, I am in such a different place than I was even 4 months ago is like, I'm grateful for the things I went through, even though it was hard, because it just like makes you who you are and teaches you lessons. So.
And if you don't mind me pontificating, I think even with our conversations, you've helped me with understanding. And I try my best to be cognizant and mindful that you don't always know what others are going through.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But to have that play out in real time, and I know we've been trying to make this happen for some time. At first,
Yeah.
it was because of what you did at Mounds View, being a trailblazer, making history there. And then as our camaraderie grew, the tone changed.
Yeah.
But either way, I felt there was a story that's worth sharing, because there might be another Lindsey Becher out there who goes through the same thing.
Yeah.
So you helped me with patience, because I had to ride through
Wait.
it. Yes, I had to wait. And there were times where I was going like, what is going on?
Yeah.
But if I were to respond or lash out or do something like that, well, that doesn't help anyone. And then how would that make you feel? So
Right.
it's not that I needed that kind of intervention, but just working with you and even getting to know you when we've talked about trying to set this up, or even just having open conversations about ourselves.
Yeah.
You've done a lot just to remind me about patience, and that everyone goes through their own course, their own path in a different way.
Right.
So I'm thankful that you were patient with me and that we were able to set this up,
Yeah.
because not only have I learned some things about you, and I feel you've been displaying a lot of courage and talking about this as openly, but you've helped me too.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad. Glad something good came out of all the waiting.
I'm hoping if we do this again, the next time it will be for the next record you break, or maybe for a conference title or something like
Yeah,
that.
that'd be awesome. Fingers crossed.
There is one more thing, a couple more while you're here that I ask of my guests. This answer could change with, again, some more seasons coming up, but
Okay.
up to this point, what was your most exciting moment as an athlete and your most embarrassing moment?
Oh, most exciting, most embarrassing. These questions are always so hard for me. Most exciting. I think most exciting probably was receiving Freshman of the Year award. That was like insane, and I was like so shocked. Yeah, that's probably that. I mean, in a game, I think the most exciting was when we beat Mankato on like a buzzer beater, that was really exciting because they were like, all talk about how they were like undefeated, and then we came in and beat them on a buzzer beater, which was like so exciting. But that freshman of the year, embarrassing moment. I don't know. I don't get embarrassed that easily, but I guess the only thing that comes to mind is when we played Duluth at Duluth this past season, I just like I don't know if anyone even noticed, but like internally I was like, oh, this could be embarrassing if someone noticed. But I was just like, felt like I didn't have my like land legs yet. Like I felt like I just got off a boat and I was just like, my legs felt like noodles. And there were a few times where I just like collapsed over, like for no reason. Like I was guarding someone, but for no reason, just kind of like fell over. And I was like, this is kind of embarrassing. Like I'm supposed to be a college athlete, but yeah, that's like the most, I can't really think of anything else that has been super embarrassing. Yeah, that's a hard question.
I'd like to think it's because you're such a good post player that
maybe.
nothing embarrassing ever happens to you.
I'm not so sure about that, but maybe I just block all the embarrassing moments out.
Well, I mean, you did set the blocks record, so I imagine that's probably
yeah.
carried over into everything else. You just know how to block
get
anything.
It out. Yeah.
There was one more question that I do remember now.
Okay, I'm ready.
So I borrowed this from the breakdown, so you might have gotten a variation of this question for the breakdown guidebooks, but it's also kind of a fun way to learn about athletes, going back to why I do this.
Okay.
What would you say is the most unusual thing about yourself that people wouldn't know if they met you for the first time?
Oh, okay. That's also a hard question.
Well, it could be anything.
See,
like
this is where you get me. I'm like, oh, I got to talk about like myself now.
I've noticed it's hard for a lot of athletes to talk about themselves, and even me, because we're so used to praising others and being part of the team dynamic. So I understand that.
Yeah.
I go through that myself.
Yeah. Okay. I guess I'm extremely, extremely introverted, which people probably can figure out by meeting me because I'm very quiet. But like, I feel like I'm slowly coming out of that, which is good. But I'm like very introverted. I get like my social battery dies really quickly. I'm trying to think of another thing. I don't know. I feel like there's nothing that weird about me. Trying to think. Oh, this is actually a good one that's actually kind of embarrassing, but this is so embarrassing, but it's good. Okay. Sometimes when I'm in my car, I'll like set up my phone. Not sometimes, I do this a lot. I'll set up my phone on like the vent and I'll just like vlog and like talk to myself and like pretend I'm like filming a little YouTube video and just like talk to myself. So that's something I do a lot, which is like kind of embarrassing, but I don't do anything with them. I just like to talk sometimes, so. Yeah.
I could think of stranger things. As long as what you're doing isn't hurting anybody or causing problems. I'm like, no, and that might be something too. I don't know what conversations you have with yourself, and I'm not looking to pry that out of you, but that might be another avenue if you want to explore it.
True.
With your own story, because I presume some of these conversations were related to what you experienced these last few months.
It's like about anything and everything going on in my life. I just spill it out. It's like therapy.
Therapy with yourself.
Yes.
Well, it's good to have that outlet. And again, and that's if you wanted to explore it. If not, that's perfectly okay too. But I just feel you have a lot to share. And whenever you're ready to share it, I think others will respond because of who you are and what you've accomplished and what's yet to come from you. I know I'm excited to see what comes next. And whether you play for another season or decide you're ready to transition away from it for good, I don't know what your future with basketball is, but I hope it's a flourishing one.
Yes.
No matter what, because I think, as you stated, you've got a lot of supporters who will be with you no matter what, and they I'm sure we'll be happy to see you get some more highlights, but I think the support you got when you were planning to step away the first time tells me the friendships you build are not because of basketball, it's because of you, and they've got your back.
Yeah.
Lindsey, I appreciate you taking the time, and I appreciate your patience with me in making this happen. I've been eager to share your story, again, not to turn you into a gossip column, but because I knew when you were talking about your mental health and wanting to step away, and I don't know everything you went through, all the demons you've had to exercise, but I knew from there, going in my head, you've got something to share. Other people should hear this when you're ready for it. And I'm glad you felt that time was now, and if it wasn't, whenever you were ready, that would be the perfect time. But I'm glad we had this conversation, and I hope others can take from your example, whether they're your teammates, and even if you have to go against them in NSIC play. I'm sure there's some people you recognize or some familiar faces in conference play, but you have a lot to add, whether it's in basketball or elsewhere, and I can't wait to see how you do it.
Yeah, I'm excited for the future.
Well, so am I. Is a triple-double within you? I've got to ask you that. You have 11 blocks, so...
I think I've done it in high school, so I could do it in college. Maybe. I'll try my best.
Is you got Freshman of the Year, you have the single-game blocks record. A triple-double might be something to strive for. Even if you don't get there, that gives you another marker.
It's a good goal, for sure.
Triple-double. So we'll find out.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see.
Well, Lindsey Becher, thanks again, and best of luck as you get ready for your junior season at Concordia. And we'll see how many more achievements you can add to your lengthy resume.
Hopefully a lot. Hopefully.
I think you will. So you can find her starting this next winter at Concordia University, where she will continue to add to the accomplishments she has already accumulated with the Golden Bears. And if you have a story you'd like to share, all you have to do is find us on social media at The Mike Peden to be a guest on a future episode. If you have a good story, we'd be happy to share it. So until next time, thanks for watching.